Hello everybody, this is Paige from Mosaic Moments, and today I'm doing a flip through of the top favorite pages of all time. And of course, there are many pages in comparison to how many pages we have. This is only a handful basically, but these are pages I find people are very drawn to them. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what's working in all of these layouts. And this first batch I have here are actually layouts that were made before our dies. So if you're not familiar with us or haven't been with us for a long time, before we had our dies, we hand cut everything with a mat, knife, and ruler. So that was the way it went. So all these pages are special to me because they were made during the hand cut only days. So this first layout was created by Tammy Potter, and as you can see, it is a very balanced layout, and I think that's what makes this so appealing. It's also very simple. Simple can go a very long ways. As you can see, there's no pattern paper, there are no embellishments. The only paper mat is in the center here for the focal photo, but the rest of the photos, there's no matting. It also helps that the subject is, this is my sister from way back in 2010. Subject's the same. The only photo she's not in is this one. That's why it's very balanced. It's partially because of the photo subject. I also think it's helpful that my sister wore this red shirt with the white. It's very contrasting. And as you can see, the background, it's this basically brown grass and there is the blue sky. And she really stands out in this landscape. And that's something if you're going to go out and take portraits of one of your kids or maybe some senior portraits, to keep that in mind with their outfits. Is it going to be an outfit that stands out on the background of wherever you live? I think that was also helpful. So overall, this is a very well-designed, well-balanced, very simple layout. You can't really go wrong with going simple. All right, this is another one by Tammy Potter, and you can probably tell right away why this page may stand out to a lot of people. Many of our customers have loved this layout. And again, this page was made back when we did hand cut only. And what Tammy did, so this was at my cousin's wedding, and you can kind of see in the background here, there's this blooming tree. And so for the backdrop of this page, my mom made the tree branches, basically the mosaic. And the way you can do that is, so if you envision the top of a tree, she took, framed her camera on one side of the tree and then framed the other side. And that's how she got this here. So this is actually 4x6 photos. A lot of people assume this was printed with one big photo, which you can do that. Printing a bigger photo is going to be more costly than just cutting with 4x6 photos. So you have one photo here and then another photo over here and then these two right here, or maybe this might even been 3 different photos here. We're all separate photos as well, but this is the part that's amazing and it frames these photos really well. Whenever you see a beautiful tree, that's the trick here, is to take, you can take one, of course, of the entire tree. That's always nice to have. But to make a mosaic like this, you want to take at least 2 pictures of that top of the tree. And then you can create something like this. And it looks amazing. This layout is beautiful. It is one of the favorites of all time for sure. All right, this is a layout I created. I have this in my unexpected favorites flip through as well, because the photos that were taken were actually not great, but the layout turned out really well. And this has become a top favorite, partially because of this strip cut here. I love the strip cut. And this is my brother when he was really young. And he happened to fit into one strip area. And so it's this nice little surprise to see a beach and see someone in one of the strips. I think is a nice surprise. The colors on this layout also help make the layout too. I have petal pink. Petal pink grid paper is wonderful for beach pages. And then I have these nice soft green and blue hues on this layout. And it gives the page a nice tranquil feel. I also love the close-up of the shells here. It really adds texture to the layout. And I think it's a nice surprise to have this one little orange shell kind of adds a little pop. It's kind of a compliment to the blue, water, and sky and these layouts. So it has a nice, soft kind of feel, and I think that's why it stands out to me. You have all these soft colors, and then you have this gorgeous blue in the water here, and it really stands out on this petal pink. So I think that's what's nice about this layout, is this photo's contrasts really well with everything else on this layout. All right, this is a really fun layout, and I have shown this and written about it several times, but if you don't know the story, this is, again, my brother when he was really young, and my mom just bought this camera with the big fancy flash that you attach to the top of the camera, and she was trying to experiment with it, and my brother, he was like 6 years old at the time, and my mom was taking pictures of him, and the flash seemed way too bright, so that's why you get these expressions. And of course the photos were not of him looking all happy or smiley or something. It seemed sort of like a fail, but I looked at these photos and I thought he kind of looks stressed. And so this page has humor, holiday stress, so he wasn't really stressed out. Maybe, I don't know, I guess that big flash might have been a little stressful, but this is really humorous page. If you have photos like this where it kind of was of candid shots or messed up, add a little humor to your scrapbook, and this page turned out really well. So for one thing, what's working for this layout is the subject. Of course, it's a very funny layout. I also enjoy all the bright colors, and I love this mosaic photo right here. So Tammy just took photos. You can kind of see they're just ornaments, and then she laid them in probably a garland with that looks kind of like that Christmas tree look. So you can take photos like that during the holidays, like maybe before you put your ornaments up, you laid them down in something to get a nice mosaic photo like this, but you can also just use photos taken of your tree as well. And of course, there is a happy smiley snowman. So it's just a fun layout. It has lots of fun colors. Of course, it's Christmas time, so there's green and red, and they're complementary colors, which makes it stand out. If you do complementary colors, it's very helpful to have more than one hue. You notice I have this kind of bright green, but then there's a little bit of this darker green. And the red is not just overly bright red, and there's some white snowflakes in there, because having bright red on a green can seem a little bit overwhelming sometimes. And anytime I do complementary colors on a layout, I like to add a neutral. In this case, I added in white, or you can add black or brown, something, because complementary colors they kind of hurt your eyes because they're a lot. They're very bright together, so it's nice to add something like white to tone it down. So overall, it's a very nice page. I think it makes it stand out that it's a complementary color scheme, and the subject is really fun. So this is just to inspire you to add a little humor to your scrapbook layouts. All right, this is the last layout before I get into the pages that were made by the dies, but this is one of my favorite pages of all time. I mean, it turned out so gorgeous, and I did not go on this trip, but New Orleans, of course, seems like a very photogenic place. And what makes this page work? Multiple things are going on here, but one of them is this photo, and it is a photo. A lot of people look at this and assume it's pattern paper, but it's actually not. Tammy took a photo. They're basically stepping on this. This was on the ground. It was just part of the sidewalk, and she took a photo with these blossoms that had gotten on the sidewalk and took a photo of it. And doesn't it look amazing? Like, my number one tip, and I have an article about this where I say my number one tip for travel pages, but really for any page, is to take photos everywhere. And this is one example. She just looked down and took a photo. And the truth is, some of these photos you may never use on a page, but the opportunity might come and you'll be glad you have that photo. And I'm so glad she took this photo. these pink blossoms just look so good on that brick, and it looks amazing on this layout. And of course, I am inspired by this historic city. So I did add, so these little corners and those were all made by a punch. It's a punch that makes a border, and then there's a matching one that cuts a corner from Martha Stewart. We have several of her punches. A lot of them are very pretty designs. And so I made this little border. So this is pretty easy. All I did was cut a second mat. So I have the ivory mat that's 4x6, and then I cut a green one the same size. I just cut the border on the bottom because you'll still need that. Something in the back to cover up the grid lines. But again, very easy to do if you have a border punch. And of course, corner punches are pretty easy. You just cut a corner and then glue it. In this case, I have it on the two corners of my photos here. And I also used that corner die to cut out this where my journaling is. And the journaling also makes, the font on here really does make the page. I should say I did learn graphic design. If you're someone who would like to learn something like this, I recommend maybe looking into some graphic or typography type classes out there if you would like to improve that for your scrapbook layouts. So overall, this is a very nice layout, and I did add a lot of chalk ink because it is a historic city. It doesn't look overly grungy, but I wanted it to make it look kind of old and look like that old city, and it just really stands out. But I think a lot of what makes this page is this mosaic. So definitely take those detail photos. Those photos are really, a lot of times, are what make our pages stand out. But overall, it's a very beautiful layout. All right, now we're moving on to the next part of the video where I show pages made with dies. So if you're familiar with all of our dies, you may recognize a lot of these I'm going to present. This page was made with the horizon dies mainly. It's mostly horizon. I believe there's this outline circle and this circle. I believe they were made with the 4x4 circle frame and flowers die set, but it's been a while since I've made this. But this is one of my favorite layouts of all time. It is really fun. I love the ombre background. This page is of Venice Beach, and Tammy took photos of all this graffiti art. And so in each section, I placed different photos of that art. And what I did for fun, so all these photos, I actually used a filter. If you're not familiar with filters, they kind of give your photo a different color style. So if I have the Mac computer and iPhone, and they usually have filters to give your photos maybe a more vintage style look. So I did use filters on these other photos just as kind of a fun, different look. And anyway, overall, it's a fun page. What I like going is the theme. I totally think this page fits with Venice, the actual place in California with all the graffiti. It's very fun, very exciting. And you can't go wrong with the horizon die. I think the horizon die is amazing. So this is a fun one. Right here, the four corners here were made with, if you get the original horizon set, there's a little 2x2 die. The 2x2 die will not work with the main horizon design, but you can use it to make mini circles. So that's what's in the corner here, is that little 2x2 horizon. And there's this picture of a palm tree, and I think it makes a nice focal point for this layout. So just have fun. If you go somewhere with graffiti, definitely take the photos because you're gonna make a fun page afterwards. That's what's going here. Again, just like the previous layout, it was really the photos that made this page, and it gives this page character. So that's the one thing I want to add, is the reason this layout works so well is because it has character. Here's another one that's one of my top favorites of all time. This is the 2x4 double X Factor die. And this is the 4x4 X Factor in the 2x2 X Factor. This one comes in the 4x6 set. This is a gorgeous layout. what makes this layout work is, again, the complementary colors. Instead of red and green like the Christmas one, we have orange and blue. But notice that I have I believe this is fresh malt as the background. And I also have this ginger kind of color. So, and it also helps that the blue's the water. It's not like a dark cardstock blue or something. So there is variation of tones in the water here. And then the orange is this very distressed looking orange. So it's not an overly bright looking orange with the blue, but it still helps to have a neutral, like a sandy color, brown color, anytime you do complementary colors. But I do think this part of the reason why it stands out is because you have this blue on the outer edges and this gorgeous orange diamond. It looks amazing. And of course, since it is the double X factor, I needed something to fill in those tiny little spaces. So I used photos of shells. It looks amazing, looks great. So this is definitely one of my favorites of all time because the complementary colors help it stand out a lot. And obviously the X Factor design is amazing. So this is something to keep in mind if you want to do the same thing, is make sure you use a color in this diamond section that really pops or complements the other colors on your layout. All right, here's another X Factor one I wanted to show real quick. What I love about this layout, and it's really fun to use the dies you use a lot. This wasn't my first X Factor layout, but I kind of looked at it one time and thought, hey, this kind of looks like a carpenter's star. So that's how I filled it in. There's these snowy background pictures, and I specifically filled it in this way to purposely give it a carpenter's star look. So have fun. I would recommend playing with your dies and seeing like, what do you see? I see quite a few carpenter stars or pinwheel patterns when I put the level 3 dies in a certain way. So I just want to talk about this. This is why this stands out and looks amazing, is because of that carpenter star design. All right, the next several pages were created by designer Jody. She's worked for us for several years and she does a really great job on her layouts, but this is one a lot of people are drawn to. This layout shows the crisscross die collection. And overall, it's a pretty simple layout. Pretty much it's photos, and then she has this sand color background. There's a wood grain paper here, which is very simple. And so overall, the color scheme doesn't really have a whole ton going on, but what makes this layout stand out is this blue. And this is one reason I love the crisscross die. The 4x6 size has this little thin frame area. And I love that because it gives you an opportunity to put a piece of paper or something, or maybe even some photos in there to help the page pop a bit more. The blue is helpful in that it contrasts rich the page so that the focal point really stands out, but it's also just very simple. As I said earlier, simpler is pretty much always better. As I said earlier, you really can't go wrong with going simple. And like I said, this layout really, this background simple, this is called sage. It's kind of like a greenish brown color. And then she has the wood grain, which the wood grain is also very nice for this layout because it adds a little more texture so the page doesn't feel flat. So keep that in mind. Wood grains are wonderful. We use wood grain pattern papers all the time, or we use even the back of our wood grain grid paper. So if you're finding your page needs a little more something, consider adding a texture type of pattern paper. And also don't forget to add some color. If your page is looking a little bit too brown, it's nice to add a little something like that, and it makes a huge difference. So again, this layout really looks good because of the texture of the wood grain, and that pop of blue is what really made it pop. This next layout is one of my favorite wedding layouts we have. It turned out so well. And when Jody made this, I think she said she didn't even have very many photos. So these might have been the only 2 she had. So she didn't have a lot of photos. So of course this page highlights just 2 photos, but it's still gorgeous. I think this would work really well if you do have wedding photos and you only want to show 2 photos on a layout. So these die cuts here are from the T-square die set. It's part of her corner cutout series, and it just frames this layout so wonderfully. What's working here is Jody cut 4 of these with the same pattern paper, and of course it's a nice color pattern paper. It looks great. And then she basically has this frame here with a close-up photo of the bouquet. You can kind of see that here. And so I really love how she has the T-square, and then it's pretty much the same photo cut into mosaic pieces and then continues with another T-square here. And of course repeated on the other side. But this layout stands out. A lot of it's because of the colors. I mean, what I really love is you kind of see this very fall-looking color here in the flowers, and she put that as a matte behind the photos here. And I think that really helped balance this layout a lot. I really like that she repeated that color here. And of course, here she also added this color in to the ivory backgrounds with some chalk ink that continues that look. Altogether, this layout works wonderfully. It is very balanced. The colors are very appealing, and it's just gorgeous. I love it. I would take a snapshot of it if you can, because this is a great one to scrap lift. All right, this next one a lot of people love. I mean, this one gets a lot of compliments when we post it, but this layout has the Puff and Stuff die, which I love that die. You can't really get a whole ton of different looks with it, but I just love this quatrefoil look anyway. It's cute. It's just the one die too. And this page is working because of how balanced it is. Of course, she has pictures of her daughter and son-in-law and their family in the 4 corners with the main subject in the middle. It's a very cute photo. And what I do like is all the mats are the same color, including the Puff and Stuff die cut, and she repeats this floral photo all around the photo, or all around the layout. And then she repeats the same pattern paper. It's a nice, very soothing baby color on this nice wood grain grid paper. Altogether, it's a very nice layout. Like I said, I think what's working here is it's very balanced. And of course, there's a very nice photo in the center. So something to keep in mind. Photos actually play a very important role in how your scrapbook layouts are going to look. So try to pay attention to that if you need. If you really love scrapbooking, I think it might be good to invest in photo classes and learn how to take good photos as well. That really also makes our scrapbook layouts from good to great. Not every scrapbook layout needs amazing photos. We get scrapbook layouts to work that weren't great photos, but I do think it's an added bonus to have these nice photos as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, get those detail photos. I'm telling you, the pages that stand out to most is because we took these type of photos. I mean, really, if there's a dogwood tree or some kind of tree blooming, take a picture of it and go use it on your layouts. You won't regret that. All right, this is my last layout from Jody, and I just love this layout. If you haven't seen this one, you're just going to fall in love with the cathedral dies. I mean, the cathedral dies are great for wedding layouts, which clearly this is one of them. But Jody did something a little bit different. The rest of us have never done this before, but she flipped the 3x4. So the cathedral has a 3x3 size and a 3x4. And she flipped it so this part is on the focal point side. We usually have it the other way around. And this turned out gorgeous. So I will say the colors, again, are appealing. She used this pattern paper and used coordinating colors that go with that paper. So overall, the colors are very appealing. The white adds very good contrast over this green color, and it still contrasts with the photos very well. And then she has this kind of darker blue pattern paper in those sections, and it looks kind of like a quilt pattern with the cathedral dies. So it's so neat. This one was really pretty. When I saw it, I was amazed. To me, it's like one of our prettiest cathedral die layouts. So I recommend giving it a try. This was for a wedding, but you can use this for other themes as well. And if you have this die set, I recommend trying this technique today, actually. Like, go ahead and try this. It's really cool. So overall, appealing, very appealing colors. And it's not even typical wedding paper or colors or anything, but it looks so good. But really what made this layout is the cathedral dies and this really amazing pattern it creates. It's a very neat one. I love it. All right, this is the last layout. And I had to put this one in because even though I think I've shown this in 2 other flip through videos, but I wanted to show it at least one more time because this one was a big hit with our customers. And I do want to talk about what's going for it. I think what helps is the background. This is our grape grid paper from the Fresh and Fruity collection. I love that collection. And I think it helps that there's multiple colors going on here. It's not a flat color. I think those colors from our collections make your backgrounds interesting. Of course, you're not going to use them for every layout, but they really add some dimension to your layout. What else is going on? This is pretty unusual for me to do, but there is this foil paper. It's a rose gold paper, or it kind of looks like copper. And it makes it interesting, gives the page some shine, again, some texture. There's these little glitter. This is from Stickles, if any of you use that. This page has a lot of dimension, it has great texture. A lot of people love how the journaling was done. And again, the journaling, I just used some paper, some lined pattern paper. So otherwise the journaling would have been a little more hard to get on here, but because I used the lined paper, it worked out really well. And the background behind the 30 degrees die was actually one of the papers from our all season collection. So I used the back of the one that has a lot of pink in it. So there's just a lot of textures going on. I think a lot of people were drawn to the journaling, and there's some sparkle. It has everything going on. And of course, the 30 degrees die does help. Obviously, using these level 3 dies will also make your page a stand out. But I love it. I love how it's all shiny. It's great. I can see why people love this layout. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I certainly hope that all these pages inspired your next scrapbook layout and that you learned some tips. And you can let me know in the comments below which one of these was your favorite or which one of these you would like to try. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.